Hey everybody, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the incident in Lahaina. I'm very sorry for what had happened. Um, we have a death toll of over 100 now, and it's just due to the wildfires. And, my condolences to the family. I'm sorry, people lose not only the deaths, but it's just that people are losing everything, like everything that they saved up for and worked really hard for. And a lot of this is a Lahaina, from my understanding. So it's a very historic town. There's some resorts and hotels, I think, but while it's kind of like the warm heart of Maui. It's like for the Big Island, there's Kailua Kona, which is like the you know and then there's Hilo as well. Or on Oahu, there's the east side. There's like Eva and things like that, or Waimea Bay. I think this Lahaina is something similar to that, where there's a lot of locals, there's a lot of transplants, there's a lot of snowbirds, there's a lot of tourists, but this is like country. It's really country, and so um, this is the heart of Maui, I think, in a sense. Okay, I mean, I know there's a lot of different hearts, but yeah, this I think I kind of know how it feels to like live in a place like this, because I do live, and I have lived in a very similar place to this. So um, anyway, I just wanted to talk about a few things, you know. And my main concern is that I feel like Lahaina is just gonna be bought up. Look how beautiful this place is. Okay, I understand that there's fires and a lot of things are ruined, but I think a lot of investors, a lot of elites are gonna come in and buy up this place and change it up and make it look nice again. And I don't think it's gonna take them that long to flatten everything out, get rid of all the rubbish, and corporatize it and make it an investment. They're gonna build very, very wealthy beach houses and residents. They're gonna build resorts. They're gonna build a lot of things to basically make this an investment. This is I think that this is gonna be a huge swoop in for a lot of investors. I think a lot of poor people and middle class, they're gonna lose whatever homes they've had, and I'm pretty sure Lahaina has a lot of very wealthy people. Okay, like it's not all just locals of generational Hawaiians and local people. I'm pretty sure Lahaina is kind of like Kailua Kona, where you have some minorities and locals being priced out, and then you have these wealthy investors coming in every single time there is a home for sale, or every single time there's available properties or things like that. So this may seem very devastating, but this is going to be very, very easy for wealthy investors and the wealthy people to come in and buy up all the land and get it for pennies on the dollar, and then uh, refurbish the land, and just turn a huge profit on this. This is going to be a very good investment for a lot of wealthy people, and it's going to be welcome too. So, from my understanding, that this was caused by Hawaiian Electric. Maybe supposedly due to the wind conditions, it was really windy, so maybe that could have started the fires. And this is just speculation, but so don't take it seriously. I don't want any kind of controversy or anything like that, but I do wonder. Um, I believe that Hawaii Electric owns 95% of all business done with electricity. Like, it basically, Hawaiian Electric monopolizes um, the Hawaiian Islands. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we're looking at Hawaiian Electric stock here, and okay, so it's currently at a market cap of 2.41 million. Really? No, I don't. That seems kind of off to me. Huh. I don't know. I don't know if I'm actually looking at this right. I didn't know that the market cap of Hawaiian Electric is 2.41 million. I thought it would be in the billions, but um, hmm, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to look at this differently. I don't. I really doubt that this is a company only worth 2.41 million. Okay, but some things we need to understand is that, look, it's possible that with the economy collapsing in America, that the best investment that wealthy people can use to store their wealth for long-term wealth would be not just stocks, but it would probably be real estate. Okay, and so look, Lahaina just lost a lot of its land, a lot of its, but this is easy to fix. Okay, I like, you can't bring back the lives, you can't destroy local people's lives who've been ruined, but investors don't care about that. So I'm going to be talking about like this from a point of view from an investor. Okay, this is good news for investors because this is easy to refurbish. You can easily fix up the land for a couple million, maybe a billion in investments, or even less, right? Like, there's so many things you can be creative. You can use government money at the same time, and there's a lot of incentives out there to fix up this land, and then people with money can end up buying the land here. Going back into this, okay, let's see. So the revenue was 794 million. Yeah, I'm surprised. Am I looking at this wrong? A 2 million market cap? I think this is wrong. Let's take a look at Yahoo Finance. There we go. Okay, so the market cap is 1.5 billion. This company started and was founded in 1891. And if you don't know a lot about Hawaii's history, is that Hawaii was overthrown by a bunch of businesses. This was during the sugarcane plantation, but the overthrow of Hawaii started way before that, and this is generally because of Western businesses coming in, gaining a lot of political and business and economic influence, and then over time slowly taking it over. Okay. And so what I've noticed personally is that when you look at okay, so we're just looking at the 20. Let's take a look at this. So as of July 21st, or July 1st, 2022, the population is 25% white, African or black 2%, Native American is 0.4, Asian alone is 37%, Native Hawaiian is 10%, two or more races 24, Hispanic or Latino 11, white alone, not Hispanic or Latino 21.3%. So the Native Hawaiian population is probably dropping. Asian population is probably stagnating, slowly declining as well. The white percentage is probably increasing, and the Hispanic could be increasing as well. It depends, right? Like, if economies globally, like China or Japan, if China rises economically, then a lot of countries in the East don't have reasons to migrate to America as much. So if, for example, we do reach multipolarity and we are heading towards that direction, um, maybe Asian economies and Middle Eastern economies will grow, while Western economies will stagnate and decline slightly in certain areas and grow as well. But if it doesn't grow as rapidly as it once did, then you will see the standard of living for Americans and Western economies that are aligned with the United States and Europe decline as well as a byproduct. And this isn't necessarily good or bad. You just have to change your values, your beliefs, the way you view things. And there are people who will be affected, like, maybe you won't be able to get food or necessities as much, but the economy, I do believe, will naturally accommodate those people, but sacrifices will have to be made. Like, you can't be spending as much as you once did. And is this fair? No, it's not. And there's a lot of other things to blame besides just this. A lot of corporate greed, a lot of decisions made, a lot of geopolitical tensions, a lot of supply chain issues, a lot of rebalancing the economy. But despite corporate greed being a huge issue, I think that, the United States has, and a lot of Western countries aligned with the United States and Europe have probably exploited a lot of these third world countries for cheap labor and manufacturing and resources. And as these other countries grow and become stronger, then there's sort of a rebalancing of like power and resources, and it becomes more fair. But the United States has sort of learned how to live beyond their means, and it just has to come back to a norm. And I hope that supply chains and resources will become a little bit more fairly distributed, and people and the governments and businesses slowly start to uh, manage themselves properly so that people can get the access to needs that they need. Okay? So, what people don't really understand about Hawaii is that while these percentages are true, a lot of tourists here are generally white, and that means that at the current moment in the aggregate, the white percentage alone is probably substantially higher than 25%. So if you were ever to come visit Hawaii, or if you live in Hawaii, you would find that there's a substantial amount of white people, like just way more white people than any other race, where any other ethnicity. And this is because most of our tourists are white. And you have a decline of like Asian tourists, like people from Japan or China, because there's just a lot of better alternatives in their area that are much more affordable. And also with the geopolitical tension, it just does not seem that interesting. And I think America, if white United States America keeps being racist, or keeps having this very aggressive political tensions towards other countries, or these very discriminatory acts towards other countries, you might find that tourists from like Asia or um, South America or in Africa, they may not be so happy to come visit the United States for tourist reasons. Like, it's not really that appealing when you want to vacation at a country that looks down on you or despises you, or for things that just don't make sense to you, right? Because like we can demonize China, for example. So if we demonize China, and we have like a superiority complex towards like other countries like Africa, in Africa or Asia, if we do that, why would they want a vacation here? Okay, you know, a Chinese tourist might want to take their money towards like Okinawa instead and get very similar things that Hawaii can offer, but for cheaper and with less with less, discrimination or negative sentiment or treatment. So with that being said, it's really important to understand that Hawaii was overthrown long time ago, and this was way before Liliuokalani. This is just because of the influence of Western countries, um, and this Hawaii Electric has such a huge monopoly on Hawaii that this company isn't going to go bankrupt. I might actually invest in this company as well, because it's not like Hawaii Electric is going to be overthrown or replaced anytime soon. This is a great deal at this point, and yeah, it's messed up, but like a lot of corporations are messed up and they do a lot of terrible things. But my main concern of Hawaii Electric is that it's not so much that I think that Hawaiian Electric in is a bad company. Look, let's just take a look at some of the comments here. A company that has continuously paid out dividends since 1901, now taken to the cleaners by some ambulance chasers. In the future, why would anyone invest in a utility? Yep, this is a utility. piddly dividends, limited upside growth, yet you can lose your entire investment because of a natural disaster. An event which is pretty much guaranteed to happen sooner or later. Sorry, but having an emergency plan would do a FA against stock selling. Pretty soon, the only thing worth doing in America will be flipping real estate and selling electronic garbage to each other. Everything else has a tube side, upside, and 100% downside. Hawaiian Electric is a historic company in Hawaii. They're like the ATT of utilities in the islands of a solid dividend over years. The lawyers who sued the Paradise wildfire took only a day or two after the wildfire to start in Lahaina. First class action lawsuit in Hawaii Electric, with no investigation to find out how the fire started. Okay. Has anyone realized that the bank alone that Hawaiian Electric owns is worth $16 alone? The loan growth is increased interest rate will drive the value of Hawaiian Electric on its own. The energy renewable. Okay, so it is recognized as the only bank in Hawaii named on Forbes. Hawaiian Electric is 100% owned by the American Savings Banks. Okay, so I don't think I have to do too much research to believe this. Okay, let's see. Institutional holders. Vanguard. June. 11% out. June. Well, that's very interesting how Vanguard and BlackRock, they seem to have timed this fairly well. Top mutual funds. Anyway, while I do think that's interesting, let's take a look. Well, I'm not really too concerned about those companies leaving. I'm not too worried about hedge funds, banks, or other things like that leaving the stock. Because that's not what I'm really focused on. You can make it with that information what you will. But I think what's the most interesting thing is that this seems like a good bet. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a stock analyzer. I'm no profession. So, this is just my opinion. Please, just, I don't know. You know what? Just don't take me seriously. This is just my own opinions on the top of my head. I think it's just really weird how the stock dropped tremendously. Like, I think it makes sense, right? You had a huge rise in like other indices as well. So it was probably due for a correction in the overall markets. And money comes in and out real fast. So it's like, okay, the stock's price can drop down half, over 50%, but it's like this thing can recover really fast. The dividend is over 6%. But again, like the stock isn't really what I focus on, because this is actually like one of the first times I'm actually looking at this whole situation. So I know I'm scatterbrained and that I don't have things together, because this is, I've heard about the Lahaina thing. I've talked about it a little bit with friends, but I didn't really look too much into it. But what I would be mostly concerned about is just Hawaii Electric. Okay. It seems like a company from 1891 has a lot of influence in Hawaii. If it owns 95% of all electric business in Hawaii, if majority of people use it, it has a lot of ties to the government, from my understanding as well. They pretty much own Hawaii's electric and energy. Okay. You have a lot of people here who may not have Hawaii's locals or residents' best interest in mind. So let's look up a little bit about Hawaiian Electric. Incorporated on October 13th, 1891, 16 years, 2,500 customers on Oahu. War and statehood during World War II. Power plants linked to military bases, generating more than 1 billion kilowatt hours. Hawaii became the state 59. Island expansion. Yeah, this place has a huge monopoly and ownership of Hawaii. Like, if I were to bet on a few companies that had like a control over Hawaii's politics, government, businesses, and people, and how they act and how their consumers and their mannerisms and values, all this, I think that Hawaiian electric industry has one of like the biggest controls over them, despite the lower market cap of 1.5 billion. If American Savings Bank really does have a lot of ownership over Hawaiian Electric as well. Let's take a look to confirm that. Hawaiian Electric Industry is a holding company for electric utility, Hawaiian Electric Co., and financial services company, American Saving Bank, both of which have 401k plans whose investment lineup including, okay, so well, that's interesting. I don't think they own a stock, but oh, okay. As an independent public company, American Savings Bank will continue to benefit from our experienced management team. How much is American Savings Bank's worth? 6.7 billion. American Savings Bank is Hawaii's third largest financial institution with assets of 6.7 billion. A subsidiary of Hawaiian Electric Industry, its head chairman of Constance Lau. How big is American Savings Bank? Take a look at this. All right. So, okay. I, based on my opinion, actually, let's see. I think Hawaii's most used insurance is probably for homeowner insurance, fire insurance, things like that. I think it's that one that starts with A. Allstate, yeah, Allstate. I mean, I really doubt this would be influenced at all. But let's take a look. Yeah, why would it really matter? So anyway, I want to talk more about the history of Hawaii, and I think I I I don't know what to say. Like, I don't think any of this is good. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's keep going. What caused the Lahaina fire? Dry conditions and strong wind fueled wildfires at Big Maui. What caused the fire in Lahaina? Fallen utility lines. Now the footage has emerged as key evidence pointing to fallen utility lines. Let's see what Reddit thinks. Maybe they want what's going on in the Great Maui Fire? How did it start? A number of things have all come together. So we don't have a high pressure area of North Island tropical storm. Strong winds. The larger islands have a dry side and wet side. Another fire started. Dry vegetation. The Defense warning may have not been triggered, so people in town have no time. There's a good bit of island without power. Disaster response fairly chaotic. Maui is a complex island with parts of tropical rainforest. Maui was hit by a perfect storm. High pressure area of wind circulating clockwise, so the winds over the island were blowing east to west. The hurricane weather systems. Maui is rather mountainous. Slopes there, compresses. No one's really talking about what caused the fires. There's credible evidence captured on video that at least one of the power line ignition sources occurred when trees fell into a Hawaiian electric power line. Well, if that's the case, wouldn't we... I understand that Lahaina is an old town, but you figure that like this could have been a perfect storm for investors looking to invest and purchase up, penny on the dollar cheap real estate. But was this planned? I mean, was this kind of like they're just waiting for the right conditions and that this was planned? I mean, it seems like Hawaiian Electric, was this Hawaiian Electric multi-billion-dollar company not... Are they not able to like manage their wires properly and things like that? Like, yeah, it's really dry here and it's very susceptible to fires, but some things can be encouraged to happen, and I wonder if this was one of those. Like, yeah, I understand, like if one thing catches on fire, this whole thing is like a fuel source. Look how dry it is, and with the high winds as well. But there's a lot of incentives for this place to be burnt down, and so investors can come in. It's beachfront property. It's in the middle of the Pacific. It's owned by the United States. It's, beachfront property with a lot of natural resources, lush mountains, great bay. This is just... I mean, can we imagine this place being bad in like 3 to 10 years? No, in 3 to 10 years, this place is going to be fixed up and it's gonna look beautiful. So yeah, I do think that it's possible that like maybe this was intentional, or even if it wasn't intentional, I think that there was a lot of people wanting this to happen. Not a lot, but a lot of questionable actors that's maybe a potential to think about. Right? And I don't want to blame anyone, but it's like, it's very possible that a tree could have fallen on a power line. I don't doubt that either. I really don't. But could this have been a wanted event to have occurred? There's a lot of things that happen that we don't expect. But, I remember one story that, in Honolulu on Oahu, there is a place called Waikiki. And Waikiki is one of the most popular tourist destinations, okay? This, next to Diamond Head, one of the most beautiful places to vacation, okay? Long time ago, before Waikiki became what it is, it was actually a bunch of marshlands with a bunch of poor local residents who were farmers and fishers and just really, like, even before this, like this is still too new. Let's see if we can look at 1800s. Yeah, look, this is what Waikiki used to look like. There's not many tall buildings. That's still too new. But yeah, Waikiki used to be a bunch of marshlands and things like that. It was marshlands, huts, fishermen, fisherwomen, people owned like taro, they grew crops. And, this actually wasn't that long ago. This was a couple hundred years ago. And so you had a bunch of investors and businesses and governments wanting to come in and start building up Oahu. Why did why does the United States want Hawaii to be ruled by corporations? Because governments and corporations and businesses, they all go hand in hand. Okay, so the government can't do certain things on its own soil, right? Because then the people would revolt. Well, they can, but like you generally don't want to do it too much, right? Like they can do a lot of shady things that are pretty messed up, that are authoritarian or totalitarian, but you don't want to do it too much if you're a government, right? You just want to do it like here and there, and you want to condition your people to be taken advantage of before you do it. But businesses and while businesses and governments are like best friends, they're one of the same. You can have your businesses do it and have governments say, "Oh yeah, like yeah, we tried our best to stop that." But so what did they do here? They want to kick all these local guys out and local women out, local families out. So they made up this like dengue flu, like this yellow fever virus that was caused by mosquitoes, which because there's a lot of swamplands, okay? So by doing that, they ended up kicking out all the locals and buying them out and forcing them out. And then rich investors came in and built up Hawaii to what it is today. A lot of tourist buildings and things like that. And so, the best way to get rid of people is by forcing them out. And you can do that through multiple ways, right? Maybe back then it was easier to kick out residents, lower and middle class and all that stuff. Maybe it's easier to kick people out by just saying, by back then, by, issuing like government policies or, economically constraining them or, kicking them out due to military or whatever. You can think of a million reasons why, but back then they said, okay, hi farmers and things like that, and people who don't want to sell their homes and leave so we can build our businesses and things. We we know that you guys don't want to leave, so we're gonna say that there's a yellow fever. There's this mosquito because of all the marshland here, and because of that, we have to kick you guys out, okay? Because we don't want you to spread this disease. So they all got sent out, and then, it was a great opportunity for businesses and government to come in and start building up the place. And these people who were originally here were displaced, okay? Because, yeah, it is marshlands, but it turned out there wasn't really anything going on. There was no yellow fever, there was no viruses going on because of the mosquito. It was just a hoax for the government and businesses to kick people out. And then they built up a multi-billion-dollar businesses and real estate and corporations here. And I think that could be the same thing with Lahaina, because Maui is one of the most top visited tourist destinations in Hawaii. How Hawaii's economy works is that you have a bunch of uneducated people, intentionally so. You have low paying jobs, and you have people working 1 to 2 jobs in order to sustain the cost of living. The state of Hawaii is one of the most expensive states in Hawaii. There's a lot of zoning laws that are really messed up, that are arguably very questionable, so people can't own their own homes. So let's take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we'll think of Hawaii at the same time. So if you're a local Hawaii resident, okay, and remember, in a capitalist economy, in our United States economy, we need poor people, okay, because without poor people, you can't exploit them, okay? If people have homes, they have access to food, then you can't exploit them. You can't force them to show up to work, to really junk jobs. You can't force them to do things they don't want to do, right? So we have modern day slavery in the form of like wage slavery, okay? So air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproduction. We've taken away the incentive to reproduce because the economy in Hawaii is so terrible that, and this is intentionally so, because we give them in access to all these other things. Okay, air quality is so because the volcano and things like that. There's many things wrong with our air. Water, I mean, we have the Hawaiian Water Company, but you can avoid these things by having your own water. if you're lucky. But if you live in an apartment, you don't get this. You have to rely on the government or businesses or corporation. Food, majority of our food is shipped here. We don't grow a lot of our own food here, even though Hawaii has one of the best growing conditions ever for food. Shelter. Okay, so shelter home prices here are in the millions of dollars, okay? And if you want to spend a couple hundred, 300, 400,000, you can buy some junk home in the middle of nowhere, okay? So if you have less access to shelter, then you're more subservient to to employers and businesses and government. So you can easily be controlled and manipulated in this manner. So yeah, Hawaii has really terrible zoning laws that make it so we can't build as many houses because they don't want you to have your own house, because if you have your own house and you have access to food and you're self-sustained, self-sufficient, you're not eager to look for employment from bad governments or bad businesses. And that's generally all we have in Hawaii. We don't have many high-paying jobs despite the high cost of living. So Hawaii is kind of like a third world country. It's kind of like one of those third world countries that are like tourist destinations like Okinawa or Portugal or something like that, where the education is really bad, the people are very exploitable, and most of the jobs are like essential yet low skilled, high productivity labor, like I don't know, housekeeping, hospitality, tourism, and serving. So, you know, in order to reach Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're not people in Hawaii, middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class. They're not reaching these things. They have junk air. They're beholden to corporations and government for food, water, and shelter, and there's just no incentive to reproduce. Safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health. Okay, so with property, you can't own property here because it's too expensive. That's why there's so much people living in like generational homes. There is a lot of land available, but there's not enough like land that is able to be built on because this is intentionally made to inflate real estate prices, and also making it so again the average person in Hawaii can't buy a home, or they're in huge debt slaves, due to like um, unfavorable mortgages because they don't want people to stop working, right? Because without people working, the economy crumbles. So if the working conditions are less than adequate, you need people to work. Um, Employment. Okay, well, people have jobs. They're working two jobs or full overtime, and they're working low-paying jobs that don't really teach you anything, don't help you climb up the social or economic ladder. They're just low-wage jobs that nobody wants to do, but they're necessary, like hotels and hospitality and tourism. Yeah, there is some loving and belonging, but as people from like the mainland of America bring in their values and norms, it might friendships, intimacy, family, sense of connection may deteriorate. Esteem, self-respect, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. Yeah, none of these are gonna happen in Hawaii if you're a poor or middle class person. Like, you're not gonna get any of these things because you're a debt slave. So you just don't get any of these things. Desire to become the most that one can be. Well, I find it hard to reach any of these things in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs in Hawaii if you're busy being a debt slave. Okay. And so debt slavery in Hawaii is like this. It's impossible to buy a home because home prices are ridiculously priced. You can own like, even if you were to own, quote unquote, own a home, you're gonna have to just, if you have a mortgage on a house, you don't own that home. Okay, the bank owns that home. So you're basically, if wages in Hawaii have stagnated and barely gone up, but productivity has only gone increased, if the economy is only getting worse, and access to food and shelters and property ownership and things like that, and water and electricity, if all these things are going up in price and your wages are staying lower, getting lower and lower relative to the increase in these prices, it's going to be really hard to fulfill Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Hawaii has been overthrown in numerous ways. And it's not just like in the 1950s. I think was it 1950? 1893. The overthrow of the monarchy. The Kingdom of Hawaii was overthrown on January 17th, 1893, after a group of 13 Caucasian businessmen and lawyers staged a coup d'etat against Queen Liliuokalani and her government. Okay, so like, like maybe this isn't as substantial as the other one, but you know, when you have people busy not meeting the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they don't have the time to actually question things or challenge the status quo or actually defend themselves from like government and corporations and lawyers and things like that. So these people are easily taken advantage of, and the average person like you and I, we just don't have the energy or time to stand up for them. And with how society is structured and how we're sedated so much to just allow for things to happen, and how greedy we've all become, and how this how jaded we've all become as well, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to stop this. What I think is going to happen is that some people get their homes back, some insurance claims will be adjusted, and a lot of rich corporations, investments, and businesses are going to come in, swoop up Lahaina, and just make it a nice profit. They're going to make a nice profit off this place. And again, with the uncertainty and volatility of the economy, stocks, bonds, they might not be the safest of assets, especially if you're looking for long-term gains that hold real value that you can actually touch and hold. While stocks do have those things, real estate, I'm pretty sure if you buy real estate in Lahaina at this point, if you get a good deal, which you're probably going to get, this is going to be an appreciating asset that's a pretty good, like, if I would bet that, government and businesses, because you need Lahaina to look beautiful, this is pretty much a free win. Like, if you manage to secure any kind of assets in Lahaina right now, like, you're definitely going to make big on your investment over the long term. So, do I think that this could have been intentionally done? Well, I think, I don't know, but it could have been a black swan event that maybe people were looking forward to happening eventually. Um, like, would this have happened if Lahaina was owned by a bunch of like billionaires and investors and the investing class? And probably not. I don't think this would have happened if billionaires owned this place. Like, a multitude of billionaires, not just a few here and there and millionaires, but big money, like large corporations, businesses. Like, if they had their hands deep into Lahaina, which they kind of do, but now it's going to be even worse, because you're going to get rid of all the poor people now, or a lot of them. Do I think that Lahaina would have been, this would have happened to Lahaina? Probably not. Like, there's so many precautions and so many things to mitigate this, and there's just a lot of things that have been considered that would have been done that weren't done. And it just makes me wonder, like, could things have gone differently? Would things have gone differently? Probably, in my opinion, but it's just my opinion. So what do I think about Hawaiian Electric stock? From my understanding, this company owns like 95% of like the Hawaii electricity and energy and things like that. So I'm personally, I don't think this company's ever gonna go bankrupt ever. Who's gonna come in? Um, if American Saving Banks also has a huge ownership within Hawaii Electric, no. This Hawaii, the way it's structured, is unique. It's like you have a bunch of poor people and Hawaii is basically ruled by the government and businesses. That's all it is. Okay, there's no like free autonomy here, and we're pretty. Most people in Hawaii are just slaves. Okay, they're just wage slaves. Like, there's just no ifs and buts about it. This place is a corrupt slave state with a bunch of wage slaves, and yeah, I just don't ever see. Um, yeah, I'm not personally. I'm not too worried if like if I were to buy assets or investments that were impacted by the fires in Lahaina, I wouldn't be scared about buying them for pennies on the dollar because I don't think that, I don't know, there's just too many upsides. Like, I think that you're going to need this electric company to exist. You're going to need American savings banks to exist. Real estate investors and investors in general, money in general, just they want to diversify their wealth, and they want to have money in different areas, and they want to have things in real estate, and they want to have it in tangible goods, and this is it. So I think Lahaina is going to recuperate. I do. Really fast, actually. And I think the poor and middle class in Lahaina are going to get screwed tremendously. But I think that rich people are very happy with this. And yeah, it's a shame because this is just another example of like greed, corporations, and government and businesses, and the wealthy elites taking over another place without any real pushback. I don't think anything's going to change. It's not going to go back to what it was. And yeah, I think that sucks for everybody. This is a big loss for the average person. And Hawaii has been overthrown in many different ways, and if even after the overthrow, if you wanted to get people out, like of different areas, a lot of rich corporations and businesses, along with the government, will try to get people out so they can start building up the economy. And there's just so many. There's a list of reasons why the government and businesses and corporations, why they want more wealthy elites and corporations and businesses to come in. There's just so many reasons why, due to corruption, greed, more control, control over the state. It's much easier to control a country and its businesses when there's only a few. But when there's many individuals, it's hard to take advantage of that. So a lot of these corporations and businesses go hand in hand. So yeah, I think that it's in the government's best interest, because they do want control of the country, that unfortunately, that I don't know, maybe this was intentional, or maybe a lot of people were looking forward to this, but this sucks, man. This is really terrible. I don't think this is going to turn out well. This is just my ignorant point of view. I haven't really done much research. This is just my opinion based on like skimming over the headlines as I've done with you. So none of this was scripted. This is just my opinion. Nothing to be taken seriously. And my opinions can change drastically and rapidly as new information comes out. I haven't done any research. This is just my opinion. I'm just skimming over general things I know about Hawaii and its history, and then applying it to this. And do I see identical relationships and events with like Lahaina, and a possibility of a government and corporate takeover of Lahaina, even more so than what it was before? Do I see that happening? Yeah, I do. Have I seen that in other parts of Hawaii, like Waikiki or Kailua Kona or numerous other parts of Hawaii? Yes, I have seen that, and in history tells that. Do I think Hawaii is corrupt and still corrupt to this day, and that the original people who overthrew Hawaii back in 1893 and prior to that still exist and still have strong influence over Hawaii in some sense? Yeah, I do think that. So I think that it's in the best interest of American corporations that this happened, and the government, because they all go hand in hand. So make of what this my perspective of what you will, but this is just my opinion and nothing to be taken seriously. Maybe I might make an update video depending on if like any other new information comes out, or if my perspective changes. But yeah, until then, I think America's gonna double down on control. It doesn't matter if it's right, left. It doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. So with that being said, I hope you have a good day. It's just my opinion.